And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, we're here each week meeting interesting people and discussing topical issues. And this week we'll be discussing what's going on in Stillwater at Oklahoma State University.
Yes, for a number of years we've been anxious to have Burns Hargis on the show. For a lot of reasons that couldn't work out, but now it can. And he has been kind enough to grace us, frankly, with 2 consecutive shows. Just as President Bourne did recently, Burns is going to talk this week with us and then next week as well. So we're really excited to have him.
Oklahoma State University's President Burns Hargis today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Every day America uses clean-burning natural gas instead of coal or oil is a day of victory for our environment. That's why Chesapeake chose to explore for natural gas exclusively, and we've never looked back. Because natural gas burns twice as clean as oil or coal, and reducing carbon emissions to combat potential global warming is every bit as urgent as cutting our dependence on energy imports. As America's #1 driller of new gas wells, Chesapeake is moving fast to find untapped reserves of natural gas here at home. It's the right fuel for America's economy and the fuel for a clean air future. We just happen to be early to see it so clearly. Chesapeake, natural gas wins the day.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're thrilled to have Burns Hargis, a longtime friend and a fellow that has distinguished himself greatly in the state and outside. He is the current president of Oklahoma State University and the Oklahoma State University system, has been since March of this year. Prior to that time, he did his undergraduate work at Oklahoma State University, with a degree in accounting, and his law work from the University of Oklahoma. In his career after school, he once again distinguished himself as a practicing lawyer, a banker, a Flashpoint television host, and was engaged in a lot of civic and cultural activities here in Oklahoma City and in the state, and had went to Oklahoma State as a great solution for both Burns and the institution, I think. Welcome, glad to have you.
Thank you, great to be with you all.
Burns University has great momentum right now. Assuming you agree with that assumption, what's the cause of it, and where do we go from here?
I think some of it, of course, is the just having a new person there. I think that always, it's like football coaches, you know, your hope springs eternal. I also think the fundraising frenzy that we all enjoyed in the last part of the spring and the legislature involving the endowed chair program created a lot of momentum early. But I think that Oklahoma, like Oklahoma City, is just on a real roll. And everybody now sees that the potential is unlimited.
Well, and the population of Stillwater is increasing at a fairly good clip.
Well, no offense, but it's the fastest growing city in Oklahoma.
Yeah, don't like being number 2 in anything, but that's a surprising to a lot of people to see a relatively rural community,
right.
Granted a good sized city, but nonetheless somewhat rural, growing at that clip, and the university's got to be at the heart of that.
Yeah, it's people are stunned when it's always fun to get people's reaction when they come to Stillwater and to Oklahoma State because it's amazing to me, but I guess a lot of people just haven't made that trek an hour north of Oklahoma City. But it is a very impressive community, and it's got a lot of high-tech industry, which of course is associated with a lot that's going on at the university. A lot of work is done with the Defense Department, with Homeland Security. A lot of very important high security work is done there. But there's a lot of other great industry in Stillwater.
There's a lot going on the campus, a lot of building projects, a lot of construction going on. Tell us, or tell our viewers, what's going on generally in that area.
Usually when that's brought up on campus, it's about my parking. Because this construction has really wreaked havoc with our parking, to be sure. Although one of the major construction projects is a parking garage with 1,500 spaces, which was helpful. There's $805 million in construction underway on that campus.
My goodness, how many different projects is it?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that, Mick, but it's, I'll give you some examples of it. Less than half of that is athletic. I mean, that's received the most notoriety.
I think the public generally thinks it's athletic.
But the fact is, it's mostly about academics and campus life. There's a new science and research technology building underway. Just finished a big one in Tulsa, the Helmrich Center. There's a new classroom building that's underway. Obviously, all the things that are going on in terms of parking and other infrastructure at the campus. We're getting ready to start about an $80 million project to redo the student union, which is the largest student union in the United States. It was built in '53 under Henry Bennett, as so much was done under Henry Bennett. And a number of other projects. And then we've got on the boards, the planning boards, we've got a new business building, a new architecture building is underway, the new Performing Arts Center. There's just a number of things going on, and it's very exciting.
Do you have any land problem? I mean, do you have enough space
well,
for that?
not really. In the campus itself that people are familiar with around the library. We can do some more there, but it's getting pretty full.
Well, it's awful pretty the way it is.
Yeah, it is, and you don't want to. The areas around Theta Pond and around Old Central. That's another construction project, by the way. That'll be our honors college. We have about 1,000 students in the honors college. But the school owns land going north and northwest for a long, long way, and then there's even land that goes all the way down to Guthrie. So we also have a lot of, this would not be useful probably for our kind of core activity, but Oklahoma State owns a lot of land around western Oklahoma, and we're actually looking at leasing that land because it's right in the wind corridor for windmills to augment our wind energy program.
So it'll be a revenue stream.
Yeah, plus you'd save money on electricity and it'd be cleaner.
The endowed chairs is something I know that you think is important for the future of Oklahoma State. Sell that to our audience. Why is that important?
Well, first of all, endowed chairs are not a chair. They are basically a position that is granted to a professor, member of the faculty, that can either augment or actually completely provide the compensation to that faculty member. It can be used for graduate assistance, which is very important to faculty members, startup costs for labs and that sort of thing. So that's really what an endowed chair funds. The state of Oklahoma, since 1988, has matched endowed chair gift by private donors dollar for dollar. Early on in my term, which began March 10th of 2008, the students, the president's leadership class Saturday had a picture of me in my presidential leadership class in 1965, and then a picture of me today. And when I got up, I said, the top picture is when I started this job, March of '08. Now I look like this. But anyway, so I was asked to come down to the legislature, summoned might be a better word, and advised that this program is just too expensive. And actually, David Bourne had done a great job with this program. Not much had been done from '88 to '94 when David arrived at OU. David really emphasized it and did a great job in the monies that he raised and that the state matched. We had focused on other things, and so we really needed to ramp up our focus on the endowed chairs. Anyway, we thought it would probably end in July of '09, or either end or be dramatically modified. In fact, they ultimately decided to end it July of '08. So we really had to go to town, and so when you got to go to town, I actually went to Dallas to see Boone Pickens and asked him if he would give $100 million for the endowed chair program, which would not only endow chairs, but it would match other donors' gifts, which then would all in the aggregate be matched by the state, which created basically a quadrupling effect of one's gift. And in 40 days and 40 nights, we raised another $68 million. So $168 million ultimately matched by the state would bring you over $300 million, which would really almost double our foundation.
Now, do you have any success stories on recruiting talented faculty members? Are they?
Yeah, well, we're just in, and of course we don't have the money yet. And the state has matched. They voted to match $100 million this time with a bond issue, which will be coming out if anybody's around to buy bonds anymore. They matched $100 million. OU got $47 million. OSU got $47 million. Regional schools got the balance. But then you got to have that money in the endowment to earn money, and until you've earned some money, you can't do anything with it, obviously. So it will probably be in the latter part of next year where you'll see the full impact of this. But in specific answer to your question, 22 million of these endowed chairs from Amy and Malone Mitchell were for a new entrepreneurship school. There's not many around the country. And in fact, it's probably one of the most important things that you can teach students today in this economy, global economy, the transformation of technology and all the rest. And we will have the most heavily endowed entrepreneurship school in the United States. And so we looked around to find the best one we could to get some advice from, and it was Syracuse. And we had the leaders of the Syracuse program that had built it and developed it into what we believe to have been one of the leading in the United States to come down and advise us on what we could do. And they liked so much what we had done and the endowment, of course, that they're moving to Stillwater. And they are going to open and run our entrepreneurship school.
My goodness.
That was a good recruiting,
congratulations.
that was a good recruiting opportunity. So even though we don't have the money from the endowment yet, the promise of that, I think, was part of what encouraged them to come, plus just the whole spirit and attitude of Oklahomans.
Why don't I jump in here and get us to our first break? We're visiting with Burns Hargis, the president at Oklahoma State University. Our next segment is after this break.
I'm Dr. Suzanne Van Kooten, a research hydrometeorologist at National Severe Storms Lab, and I'm a Chickasaw. There's a stewardship there, I think, that's within Native Americans and the protectionist of the land, and are we going to leave things better than when we came in, that came across in how I did my job. I had a true passion for it because I realized that this was what we had always done. We'd always been so involved with the land and taking care of the land, but also taking care of people. So that is truly the stream that you go down as a meteorologist. You want to protect lives and property. The Chickasaw Nation does an amazing job with our education programs. There are no excuses for you not to succeed as a Chickasaw in education. That's fundamental. That's fundamental to the success of the nation, is this education aspect, because knowledge literally is power.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB, and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
And we're back on The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, and this week's guest, Burns Hargis, the president at Oklahoma State University. Kent, where to now?
We hear a lot in the press about Boone Pickens and his impact on the university, and I know it's more than just writing a check. Can you kind of describe for our audience what a difference his involvement has made?
Yeah. I had a reporter ask me if he had any influence at OSU, and I went, yeah. He sure does. And why wouldn't he? Well, the importance beyond just the dollars, which are astounding and transformational, is that Boone Pickens has done a lot in this life and has a lot of experience. He is a competitor. He absolutely is the hardest driving person I've ever known in my life. He doesn't give up. He's got that Gila monster mentality. And that's an infectious kind of character on the university, so that's very helpful. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and so you get access to all that for free. And he always has his orange tie on wherever he goes. He always talks about OSU. He always tells people, when you're not rooting for your school, you got to root for OSU if I do anything for you. You've actually made that deal with the University of Texas for their medical school. And in fact, if they don't double the endowment that he gave them by a certain time, they have to give all the money to OSU. But in his recent Pickens plan, which has been ubiquitous around the country, he's always talking about OSU, and I think we will have a lot of joint programs to further alternative energy. So he's just a tremendous kind of glow around the university.
He's kind of moved into pop culture. That's kind of what I've noticed with the Pickens plan, especially. He's become a television celebrity, and that can only help Oklahoma State as his rise to prominence happens at the same time, because he's so closely associated with your school right now.
That's right, and that is his intention, and he is absolutely committed to Oklahoma State being a real competitor in everything we do, not just athletics, but now as a result of this endowed chair in academics. And the interesting thing is when he gave that $100 million, he made it clear to everybody publicly that I'm not through.
Yeah,
and I know he's not.
Well, has he ever described for you in any way that you feel free talking about what happened to him during his OSU experience, Oklahoma A&M then, I guess, that engendered this fierce passion for Oklahoma State?
Well, he grew up in Holdenville, which everybody knows by now. But he in high school, his dad was with Phillips and went to Amarillo. And he graduated from high school in Amarillo and was recruited to Texas A&M to play basketball, but was cut after his freshman year, which was not a smart move. And decided to come to Oklahoma A&M in those days. And actually did try to play basketball for Hank Iba. Hank Iba was asked many years later if he knew who Boone Pickens was, and he said, well, sure, I know who Boone Pickens is. And, well, why didn't you let him play basketball for OSU? And he said, I don't remember that he ever tried to play basketball for OSU. And Boone said, darn, he could have said I had potential or something. But he was very active in his fraternity at Oklahoma State. I think it just had a very profound effect, as it does on many of us. I mean, college for most of us is the most, really the most important times of our life. It shapes us as we're in that maturation stage of our life. We're all still maturing. I certainly am. But that's an important time. And he said it many times. He said, I just got sick of losing. I got sick of being embarrassed about my beloved alma mater not performing well in major athletics. And that's really what I think started all this.
Well, this isn't a Boone Pickens show, but he surely has been...
I'm happy for it to be.
He surely has been an example to other stalwart Oklahoma State graduates to say, gosh, if he can do that, I can step up too.
Well, I mentioned Damian Malone Mitchell. Malone will tell you, and he's a tremendous entrepreneur. I mean, Malone actually had had an air cargo business with his Flying Aggie airplane when he was in college. And he's just gone from one thing to the next, and he and Amy are just real treasures and entrepreneurial examples for our students. But he said he can remember that the students would call him to join the Alumni Association, give $100, and that's what he'd do. And his next gift was $58 million. And he stood up and said, I was inspired by Boone Pickens. Yeah. I mean, if Boone Pickens did it, I knew I ought to do what I could do. And we're seeing that. I had more people in the endowed chair fundraising effort tell me this is 10 times more money than I've ever given anybody for anything. And in fact, that was in my experience, in the gift we gave. So we just need to, our universities, as state support has gone down, need to dramatically increase the private giving that we have to these universities. And so all of those of us who have benefited so much from our alma maters need to really step up in ways we've probably never imagined.
You, as a businessman, you're always open to ideas and appreciated creativity. How do you take that to the university setting, and do you feel like you're open to ideas and new concepts, maybe more so than someone who came up in that university setting all along?
Yeah, and we're not just giving lip service to it, Mick. We actually have a creativity project. Of course, we have the Oklahoma Creativity Project,
which you chair or did chair,
still do, and which is trying to catalyze creativity throughout the state of Oklahoma. It's the only hope we've got. I mean, we'll never spend our way to the top. And so higher education, just as I mentioned earlier, which has gone down in state support by around 30% now. When we were in school, it was probably 70, 75% or more. Since it's gone down, we can't keep doing it the same way. Higher education, if you had been fast frozen in 1890 and thawed out today on a college campus, you might not notice a whole lot of difference. You'd notice some computers and electricity, those obvious things. But in terms of the structure, how the colleges function, how the departments function, and all the rest, it's pretty well organized the way it developed in England. And so I'm not sure that gives students the broad experience they need to be ready for the world they're entering. And we are going to work hard to identify those kinds of things. Entrepreneurship is a perfect example. Whether you're in fine arts or in hotel and restaurant management or engineering or business or wherever you are, you need to know about entrepreneurship. You need to know how to start a business. You need to know how you raise capital, how you borrow money. All of those skills everybody needs. And so we're going to be trying to expose our students much more broadly than any of us were in our individual majors. I'd like every one of our students to study abroad for at least one semester. I think if we're in a global economy. These graduates are going to be dealing with that more than anybody ever has in the past, and so they need to actually go to foreign countries and learn how to operate there.
Talk about your enrollment. Is it where you want it? Are you going to try to do things to change it?
We want to grow our enrollment, and
where is it now, approximately?
Well, it's counting all of the system, it's about 32,000. On the Stillwater campus is about 22,000, and there's another 3,000 or so at OSU Tulsa, and another, and our medical school has about 1,000, and which is, by the way, the very highly ranked medical school, one of the highest in primary care trained physicians. OSU Oklahoma City is extremely successful under Jerry Carroll's leadership, and he's over 5,000 students. And then Okmulgee is a wonderful, which is now called Institute of Technology, is a great operation, which makes up the difference. The problem, I think, in higher education for all of us is that we're pushing the envelope on tuition. We can't grow these universities and colleges on the backs of tuition alone. And this raising tuition 8 and 9% every year is not the way to prosperity. We're going to have to come up with new ways to organize our higher education system and new ways to deliver the product to our students. Because here's what's at stake here. A state's per capita income is directly related. It's a linear correlation to number of college graduates that it has in that state. The state with the highest number of college graduates is Connecticut. the state with the highest per capita income is Connecticut. And Oklahoma's college graduate percentage is in the low 20s. And consequently, we are not going to grow as a state economically unless we get more college graduates out there. And that should be our mission.
That's going to have to wrap it up, but we're going to have Burns back next week for more on this topic perhaps and others. Burns, thanks so much for joining us this week on The Verdict.
Thank you, Mick. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Kent.
Burns.
Kent and I'll have a final word right after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
We're back on The Verdict, wrapping up a show with Burns Hargis.
He's awfully kind to give us his time, and we're pleased we're going to have him back next week as well.
His website information is okstate.edu, and you can reach us on our website, theverdict.tv. See you next week.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.